I'm Simon, I compose the music.
And I'm John, and I wrote the book and the lyrics.
The journey began in Manchester, actually. We met in Manchester, and we wanted to retell the story of Stephen King's Carrie
in musical
form. We know it's been done before, and I saw the original and was a huge fan, and John is a massive Stephen King fan and loved the musical too. But of course it wasn't available then, so we thought, well, we'll just retell do our own version.
Yeah.
That's where things started. A character called Carter King.
Yeah.
That lasted about I don't know, 5 minutes.
I don't know, but it got us used to writing together, because the first time we started writing, I plonked some wine in front of you and said, here we go, I'm not going to write in front of you. But we did, and we got through it, and that was a long time ago. And then we both ended up moving to London, and I was writing a play that basically just wasn't working. And I was in a workshop and I was thinking, what could my next story be? And then I thought, okay, there's something in being this cabaret space. It was at Soho Theatre downstairs. That's really interesting. Talked to Simon, I said, could I use the tunes? And he went, yeah. And that's how it started. I started using the tunes, but then it became, well, we could start to do more with this, and the story took a life of its own, and the characters developed. I think originally, these 4 characters are not necessarily the same as the original characters.
Definitely not.
And then we met Dan and Sharon at Devoted and Disgruntled, and the whole thing then became from being a nebulous, or not really, the sort of doing this, it's quite interesting to, let's maybe do this properly.
Yeah, it became a proper thing, I think, at D&D. Definitely. D&D 9? D&D 8?
Or D&D 8.
D&D 8,
yeah.
Yes. Musically, it has its roots in cabaret. We're big fans of modern cabaret, and we've seen a lot of cabaret performers come into London, and I think we've been inspired by the way they tell a story in a song or in monologues that's really, really fantastic. So we wanted to capture some of that. From a musical theatre perspective, I think it has, there's several nods to several composers. Most recently, someone highlighted to me that it feels very like Paul Williams, who wrote Phantom of the Paradise, and I said, I'll take that. That's very, I'm flattered. Thank you very much. But yeah, I think it has its roots in cabaret. That's where it comes from, definitely.
For me, I'm coming at this as partly, yes, it's a musical, but I'm also coming at this from, it needs to have a really strong book. It needs to have a really strong story, because I know I've seen other shows where I've absolutely loved the songs in them, but the book has just been a bit sort of, and we talk about what we mean by having a strong book. I mean, it's about having a strong story, but it's also about having strong characters and strong dialogue as well. It's it being a believable world and how the music fits into that world. Yeah. So there are lots of examples where they are great shows. I thought, I quite like that. I like what they do in Follies, although book-wise not necessarily, it's a bit more
complicated.
Abstract, isn't it? Chorus Line, brilliant. Something like Chorus Line, where you've got the narratives, and you've got the real life situation, and then you've got the show merging in with the actual situation itself. But also for me, a lot of my inspirational background comes from straightforward theatre, where there isn't music used. It might be movement theatre, but really it's exciting theatre, something that's very theatrical. That's why we have the form of going from the very naturalistic world to breaking the fourth wall of cabaret.
Yeah. I personally like the description of a rehearsal then a show. The fact that this is a rehearsal world, it's about, we have 45 minutes to get something on its feet. Of course, that isn't enough. Drama has to happen, there's great conflict, there are good characters that move us into this then abstracted world that's inside someone's head that kind of flips the reality into absolute fantasy. It's very distinct, you know, we have a real situation that flips into fantasy.
And we have to do a lot in that 45 minutes as well. So if you're taking that 45 minutes as being very real, it's like the audience is sat watching a real life situation, then we have to get things going really quickly So there's an essence of this which it's quite heightened, even in the first part, because it's quite fast. So we use comedy, we use weapons that just innate, and we use a chair as well. So we have this stimulus that then pushes the conversation on and pushes it on really quickly, because we have to get to a very heightened stage within. We have to get to a very heightened state within about 40 minutes to then break into our cabaret world, which is the dark underbelly of all their thoughts and feelings and past.
And even that cabaret, the form of that cabaret isn't the straight cabaret. The songs get cut off, they get broken, there's other melodies playing over the top, there's different kind of distractions, which is why we use the term broken cabaret.
Yeah. So putting on a show is incredibly expensive, and we're investing money ourselves, we're investing a lot of our time. It's expensive if you want to do it well, and it's expensive if you want to do it properly and fairly. We know that there's a lot of small productions, whether they're musicals or not, where the actors and the creatives involved, so the director, aren't necessarily paid, or if they are paid, they're not paid fairly. And we didn't want to do this without paying fairly and making this as good as we could get it. So part of our one of the reasons for having the budget that we do, even though it's quite small, is that we are paying everyone, except ourselves, we're paying everyone fairly, and we have to pay for 3 weeks rehearsal, but then we're running a show for a month. It's no small thing to run a show, and it's no small thing to run a musical.
Yeah, and we obviously have a great team at the King's Head supporting us, which is fantastic, but putting it on at a venue like the King's Head, which is not, the back hall of someone's house or anywhere, it's a well-known and well-respected venue, pub theatre venue in London, that things have to be a certain standard. So part of the reason why we're asking for support through Kickstarter is to make sure that we get to that standard. And what we hope sets our Kickstarter apart is the rewards. There are some of the standard rewards, lots of thank yous, lots of tickets available, but we're trying to be a little bit different with the rewards. So we are designing some unique t-shirts that only people who go through the Kickstarter campaign will get, for example. We're giving away scripts, we're giving away versions of the song, versions of the soundtrack. There is an opportunity to have your name in the show, for example, which I think is quite a unique idea. There are 4 opportunities in the show to have a name put in there, so we thought that would be nice for someone to have themselves part of the story. Bit of comedy, bit of breaking of the fourth wall as well. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we are keen to develop is different ways of telling stories. And one of the ways we are telling stories is through transmedia campaigns. So this story, yes, is in the world of that you'll see on stage. It's very much, you'll enjoy the show itself, but you can dive deeper into that world of these characters by exploring online their stories through digital portals. And if you pledge into the Kickstarter, you get the key into that digital portal that allows you to see perhaps their website, or perhaps more videos and perhaps more songs that they've created that aren't in the show, but lend a little bit more background to their character, what they're about and what they're going through. So the three words I use to describe the show are twisted. I think it's got a nice warped sense of humour. The second one is funny. I think John has written a funny book, and I hope hummable. I think I've seen a lot of musicals recently where they're beautifully written, but you can't walk away humming a tune. I think with our one, they're clever tunes, but at the same time you can hum them. So why not?
For me, 3 words. I think entertaining it's definitely an entertaining show. I would hope we've written something that we want to be entertaining in all its ways. The flip side of that is maybe something that's a little bit challenging, that takes you on a journey that might make you feel a bit uncomfortable in places or at the end. So. Challenging and entertaining, and I'd like to go for funny as well. I didn't realise I'd written something that's funny, but then I don't think you always do. So watching the actors perform it and the way that they're doing it is bringing out a lot of humour. So it has become funny.
Yeah.